Hi guys, and thank you for joining me for another video. So this is the second in our Studio Moments series, and what I'm hoping for this series is to take you behind the scenes and show you what I work on, basically give you some insight into what I do, what Myra does, and discuss some topics that are art related while doing so. So in the video, I probably won't talk about it after now, but it's a multi-day sort of sketch of a wolf, and this is an ink and water paint piece. It took multiple days, which is why you might end up seeing a bit of a shift in lighting, and I'll just let that play in the background. What I actually wanted to talk about was something that I've been thinking about, which is how to stop procrastinating and get into making art. So I don't personally know many artists. I've always wished for a group of like-minded people to get together with and produce some art. But for the most part, my friends are hobbyists who pick up a pencil or a brush once in a while. So some want to create more often but are busy with work or kids or both. And others just don't get that deep urge, to create something when they're not in the mood. So really forcing themselves is just a chore. But what about those who want to create more art and want to get better and may even have some free time to do so, but they still can't? So I'm talking to those of you who procrastinate and never end up getting anywhere because you're waiting to feel like it. So fact of the matter is, you might not feel like it for a long time, and that doesn't mean that you shouldn't create until that happens. I wanted to give you some ideas of what I do to keep creating, and hopefully some of these will help you get back into the groove if you are currently procrastinating or on a bit of a break. So my first idea is basically working on multiple pieces. So I work on multiple pieces of sort of varying complexity at any one time. So if I feel like making art but I don't have the energy to dive deep into anything too technical or complicated, I work on one of the simpler, more forgiving mediums like gouache. So generally, working with a medium that allows you the ability to fix mistakes more easily is perfect for these instances where you sort of just want to create, but your mind doesn't want to think too much about what you're doing. Another thing I like to do is to just throw paint around. So not literally, but some of my best oil paint pieces were a result of me experimenting with color combinations I've not tried before. In these instances, when I'm procrastinating, I might pull out a small blank canvas and just dab some oil paint on it and then just start moving the paint around with a brush or a palette knife. And if it doesn't work out, I just use a rag to wipe out the paint and then use the canvas at a later date. So it doesn't really feel like I've wasted anything because really all practice is good practice in my opinion. Something else I do is I sketch. So sketchbooks are brilliant things. I have multiple going at once, and a lot of the time when I'm just too tired to create and I don't want to waste my time just on Netflix, I might put on some brainless movie and then use my red pencil to sketch out ideas in my sketchbook. So some of these sketches may eventually be traced on good paper and painted later. What I like most about doing this is that as soon as I take out my sketchbook and my red pencil, I'm automatically in that non-perfectionist mode that allows me to doodle, and so I don't stress about what I'm making. And if it works out, great. it'll become potentially a next painting. And if it doesn't work out, then I've practiced. And again, I don't think any practice is a waste of time. Something else that I do is coloring in existing outlines. So we're all familiar with the benefit of repetitive motions for easing our anxiety and stress levels. And this is why all those sort of adult coloring books are such a huge thing these days. But rather than color an existing item, I instead color my own outlines. So back in 2015, Myra and I created our own set of coloring cards on water paint paper. We created a video about them, so feel free to go see it. But I still have those originals, so every now and then I take one out and I paint it. And I will release a future video of me painting one of those for you. But basically it's just coloring in, and I think that really reduces anxiety, at least in me, and it takes away the decision-making requirement that might be stressing me out. And I think, at least from a painting perspective, it just allows me to play around with color combination. So if you're using paint, I think you end up practicing the paint handling process, even if you're not thinking so much about the lines or getting the color exactly between the lines. So this is a bit of a mixed bag, but something else I do when I'm procrastinating is I use social media. The reason I still use Instagram is because it's the single most important source of inspiration for me. I especially love seeing what other artists are making, and I always want to learn about new materials and techniques. So seeing what happens in the background helps me more than seeing completed pieces, because completed pieces are a bit sort of daunting to look at. Like, you look at them and you're thinking, how the heck did they get to that level? But when you look a bit behind the scenes and you just see the step-by-step process, it makes a lot of difference. So every day I spend some time going through my feed, and it's rare that I'm not inspired by a photo or a painting. Now, of course, as with everything, there are downsides to social media, and I will have a bit of a chat about that in a later video. How about art books? So I'm an avid collector of art books. I don't necessarily take instructions from them because I'm just too impatient to sit and read through. But I do love to look through them. And in some instances where nothing's working out, I like to take down a book from my shelf and flip through it. I'm also starting to delve sort of deeper into the biographies of artists I admire. So while this form of reading isn't typically a flip through, it does allow me to get closer to art and artists that I love. My current book, which I highly recommend, is called Caravaggio, A Life Sacred and Profane, and it's absolutely amazing. So he being one of my favorite artists, just reading about him teaches me to look at his work in a different way, and that really can't help if you want to get back into the zone. And I think finally, this is my final point, why not go through your art materials and maybe swatch them? So I myself don't usually bother because I have way too many tubes of paint, and I generally like to explore them by picking them randomly every now and then and just slapping them together to see what I get. But I know that there are many artists that really explore their paint and gain a lot of ideas for potential paintings by swatching what they have. So maybe swatch your materials, and that may give you something that you want to work towards at a later date, or you may find something you've actually forgotten you've had. I don't know about you, but I think I'm a bit of a hoarder. And so every now and then I rotate my art materials. So if it's in a drawer, I take them out, and this forces me to use them. So from experience, I can tell you that if I take too long a break, I will find it hard to get back into the groove. So these are some ideas that I think may help you. They definitely help me. And if you have anything else to add, please just put it down in the comments below. It'd be great if we help each other out, especially with something that I find is pretty endemic. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you do have any questions about materials or anything else, let me know. Thank you. Bye bye.